Hey there, 5th and 6th grade artists. Mrs. Langless here with another remote art project for you. And today we are going to use the shading practice that we've been working on for the last two artworks to sort of bring it all together in a final artwork. So here is an example of what we're working toward. And today we are going to focus in on the circles or the spheres that you see in this particular example. And that's going to be the first step. So this particular project will have several steps, several different weeks parts before we get the whole thing finished. So the very first thing we're going to start on, since we haven't worked with circles or spheres, we've been working just with straight lines, like in making triangles and shapes like that. Today we are going to start with those circles or spheres. So you will need a pencil and a piece of white paper. It can be your project paper from your portfolio, or if you have a piece of copy paper, or really any kind of paper will work for you. And then what you will need is something that's circular. So if you have tools that make circles like compasses or even stencils, that's fine. Use those. Those are great tools for making circles. But a lot of times I don't have those tools on hand if I'm working at home. And so I just use objects that I find around me. So for example, I have some masking tape here in my office, and I can use this to make multiple circles. So what I want you to do to begin is just to make at least 3 circles on your paper. If you make more, you can consider using odd numbers because artists usually use odd numbers in their designs. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take my first circle, and I think I'm going to make this one kind of go off the edge of my paper. So I am going to trace the outer edge. Now make sure whatever object it is that you're holding it still. You know, some other examples of objects, like I have this container right here that's circular. It's kind of large, but I could put this down and do it. Or, you know, I have this one right here that's much smaller. I could even take the cap off and trace that. So, you know, choose a variety of different sizes as well, and that will make your design look really good too. So here's my first circle. I'm just going to hold it down and take my pencil and just trace around it without it moving. Okay, so there's one circle. I think the next circle I will make down here. I'm going to kind of offset it over to the side. And this time I think, I'm going to put the whole thing on. So I'm going to do the inside of the circle now because then I can get a different size. There it is. And then, where do I want this next guy to be? Maybe I want it to be overlapping this one. And I'll do that bigger circle again. So this time I'm going to make the circle going behind the one that I just made. So I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to stop at the other circle so it looks like it's on top. Okay, let me get this centered again so that you can see it, and maybe I will even pull it up a little bit further so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so now that I've got my circles drawn, and if you want to add more, feel free, okay? And they can be smaller. You can make them go off the edges, whatever you want. But at least 3 circles should be on your paper for you then to work into this design. So now I'm going to shift to one that I've already started. It's kind of like a cooking show. So I've got this one half done here. So here's the design that I've been working on, and today what I'm going to show you is how to do that same fading but working in a circle versus along straight lines, which is what we've been doing in the last couple of videos. So I am using just black to white. So I'm using a black colored pencil. If you would prefer to do this with a color, feel free to do that. You could do it, you know, let's say with red to white, or you could even do it with, you know, moving from one color to the other like we did in our last shading exercise. Today, I am just planning on, you know, like the example here that I showed you, Most of my circles, I think I'm going to leave them black and white so that there's a contrast with the background, which I'm planning on doing in color. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one right here. And I notice that I've got a little bit of smudging. Maybe I'll use my eraser to kind of get rid of that. Okay, and because I can sort of see some dark lines that I left behind when I was making this, I'm actually going to make my lightest area on my sphere or my circle or ball, whatever you want to, however you want to think of it. I'm going to make my lightest area right here. So that's the first thing you need to do. Choose where you want your lightest area to be so you know not to make marks there. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my colored pencil in, and this is where you really have to put a lot of pressure down. So I am going to then kind of just create the outline and start building up my values. Now the edge, as you can see on this one, the edge is where you're going to find your darkest values. If you think about a sphere, as it moves to the edge, it's starting to kind of wrap around the circle or the ball, and so it's getting into shadow, or it's being sort of sheltered from where your light source is coming from. So I guess that's something important that we should talk about. The reason why these objects are going dark to light is because light is shining in this area, and then as it moves around, it gets darker. So that is what makes objects appear to be three-dimensional, or sitting, you know, really in actual space and time. And we're going to be working on some perspective drawings soon that will really help us even more with making things look three-dimensional. This shading part is really just one piece of the puzzle. So as I've been working and talking to you, I'm just kind of, again, making it dark, and I'm trying to press down as hard as I possibly can to begin. And then I'm just kind of getting a little bit lighter, and I'm going to continue that outline even all the way around, okay? And just make that nice little dark band that I know will be there in a sphere because of the fact that light is starting to be blocked as the object is round. Okay. Getting there. All right. Now, and if you start to lose some of the roundness, don't worry. You can always come back and touch that up. I'm needing to sort of widen my sphere a little bit to make it work. Okay, dark, dark, dark. All right, so I've done a pretty good layer of dark around the edge. And remember, I said that I wanted the lightest area to be right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this band, but now, and notice how I'm coloring in a circle. That's really, really important because it's circular. So you kind of have to do your shading in that shape. So I'm kind of just coloring around. Now I'm going to start to pick up a little bit of pressure because I want the values to start to change here. Again, I'm trying to keep that nice round circle. Okay, so gradual, gradual, lightening, lightening. And I'm going to come back in and sort of feather this in a little bit better. I think I used that term last week and maybe the week before. Now, feathering it in, I don't know if that's really an official term or if it's just something that I use. But basically it means if you see a line, like see right there how there's a line between light and dark, just kind of getting rid of that by going back over it is what I mean by feathering it in. Just real subtle, soft shifts from light to dark. Okay, so I'm starting to kind of zero in on that area that I wanted to leave light. I'm just going to keep on going. And again, I'm just starting to pick up pressure, and I am going to leave the center completely white. Okay, so now it's pretty good, but I still have some things that I need to work on. So this is where I change direction a lot of times to, you know, try to feather things in. Sometimes it works better if you change that direction, and it makes very subtle shifts in your values if you continue to do that. And it also tends to make the circle or sphere look a little bit rounder if you start to change direction there. Okay, so I'm starting to really like it. Now, let's say, and I know I did this on this one a lot, let's say that there were some spots that, you know, didn't really work that well and you needed to come back to it. You can use an eraser. Where did I put that pencil? Oh my goodness. I bet it's under the paper. Other side maybe. There it is. Okay. So what you can do is you can come back to some areas like right in here and just use a regular pencil eraser to come back and kind of, what it does is it erases. So it's taking away some of the black, but it also, in a way, it acts as a blending tool. So that can really help. And I even like to go over the lighter areas too. And I kind of like the way that's looking. I think I might even come back in this area as well, try to make it a little bit more subtle. And I think I'm really liking that one. I think I'm liking that one almost better than this one. Although this shift I really like right here too. So I might work a little bit on getting this to lighten up a little bit. So I know you're probably looking at it right now and being like, I'm not really seeing a big difference, Mrs. Langless, but up close, there are these very subtle changes that are going to make it look more three-dimensional. So this is how you work with spheres. So please, for today's project, or I should say for today's step in this project, make sure that you do at least 3 spheres, draw them, trace them carefully with objects that you find around your house, and then shade them going light to dark. Just pick a spot where you want it to be light, leave that white, make the rest dark, and then you're doing your shading in a circle. I'm going to finish these other 2 off camera, and then next week what we'll work on is developing, and I'll show you that example again. And so what we're working on today are doing the spheres, and then next time we are going to be working on building up the background shapes, which is similar to the practice that you've been doing over the last couple of days, or I should say artworks, okay? So work on those spheres. When you're finished with them, I would love to see the progress. So take a photo and send it to me so I can see how you're doing with that, and I'll give you feedback. Uploading to Seesaw or Unified Classroom, or sending it to me through email. And make sure you hold on to this and keep it in a safe spot. Put it in your portfolio, because we are going to be working on this artwork for the next several classes. So thanks so much, and I hope you guys are doing well, and have an awesome day. We'll see you next time. All right, take care, guys.